teaching you the art of industrial real estate. This is On Air with Team Jensen.
All right. Welcome, listeners. Welcome to episode 24 of the On Air podcast with Team Jensen. Today we are excited. We've got a couple folks with us from NCRI. If you have not heard of them, we're about to dive in, so you'll be very well familiar with them here shortly. But Justin and Reuben, thank you for coming on with us today. And Justin, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of jump into NCRI and what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks for having us, fellas. We're
For sure.
definitely excited to be here. We were just talking about the amazing view that you have up here all over the city. So, yeah, Justin Maxson with NCRI. So NCRI stands for National Catastrophe Restoration Inc. We're the only woman-owned, multi-location, ISO-certified, full-service restoration reconstruction contractor in the United States, and we're located right here in Kansas City.
Okay, cool.
So we primarily service commercial clients in all 50 states, and we provide services for man-made or natural disasters. So it looks like hurricanes, fire, water, wind, storm damage, tornadoes, basically everything from a small toilet overflow all the way to an industrial building that has a fire suppression system break.
Right.
So that we're in 53rd year in business this year. We're a family-owned and operated company. So it was my grandmother and grandfather that started the company back in 1972. Cool. Today we're about at 100 full-time employees. And with me today is Reuben Kerbs, who handles all of our national accounts. He's part of our family, brother from another mother kind of deal, but he is part of our family.
Yeah.
And so, I'll let Reuben talk about, a number of our clients that we service, on a daily basis and kind of what that looks like, kind of partnership that we have with our clients and really what we do. I mean, we have such a broad array of services. We can do everything from, the normal water extraction and bringing in air movers and dehumidifiers, but all the way to, a building catching on fire that's in Washington, D.C., and we have to, build containments around, outside the building to, hide our crews and everything. So we've gotten into some really fun stuff. We've gotten into some really bad stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we're here today. Happy to talk through all of that. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and then learn about you guys as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Reuben?
Yep. Reuben Kerbs. I've been with the company for over 18 years. And my primary role with the company, though, is to build the company on a national basis, not also giving up on local relationships I have, whether it's in Wichita or Kansas City. And so, we work with many different verticals. We work with property management, we work with retail, manufacturing, warehouse, educational, government. So we work with really, if it's a commercial building, or in Kansas, we do residential work as well. But my primary focus and the company's focus outside of Kansas is all national work. So we work with the clients, whether they're Fortune 100, 500, or just single locations. We're doing pre-disaster work with them, so we walk the properties with the clients and help them get to know their buildings. We get to know the buildings, so that way, when we do get a work order, if we do get a loss and it's a large loss, we already have a snapshot of what that building looks like. So if I've already walked that building or we walked that building, we have a pre-disaster assessment. We know the type of roof, the type of structure. We know the interior, exterior building materials, so we can actually kind of make an appropriate response. Versus just sending everybody or not sending enough. So that way we kind of know the square foot and what we're dealing with.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that's one of the biggest things a lot of people don't understand about our industry, or specific to us at NCRI, is that we're actually doing some pre-planning with that pre-event.
Well, and that was honestly where my mind was going. I was thinking of a question, and you got, in a sense, it's insurance, right? I mean, but like, it's not like an operating mechanical system that requires preventative maintenance. You guys are kind of there waiting, ready to help. But I was going to ask if you guys do any preventative maintenance type steps with those clients. And it sounds like just knowing the building, knowing the property and all of that can be a step forward ahead for you guys.
For sure. And it's amazing when you walk it, we're learning sometimes. Maybe it's a new facility manager, and this might be some things that they never even thought about.
Right.
Yeah, they may think about like, all right, where's the main water shut off to the building?
Right.
But what about that second or third shift facility manager? Do they know?
Right.
Sometimes you just don't know about all those things unless you've been through a loss.
Right.
And then the wheels start turning like, all right, where's that main water shut off? Where are all the exits? Where would we park our trucks for a building like this? Where do we load? Is there a security check-in?
Right.
Do we need to get our employees, badge, prior to? So that way you can try to eliminate some of those kinks in the road beforehand.
Right.
And that way everybody's pre-qualified to be on the property.
And that's that partnership piece, right?
Right.
So, I mean, when we're talking about having, the clients that we have, those Fortune 100, Fortune 500, but also still being a family-owned and operated company, right? We have all these abilities to be able to service all the clients on a national level, but at the end of the day, we're still a family-owned company.
Right.
And so it really is that one-on-one partnership that we're looking for and providing that service of this disaster plan prior to, where it's not just hey, we only want to talk to you when you have something bad happen, right? We want to be able to have conversations with you way before anything even takes place.
Protect you from, worst case scenario a little bit too.
It's like calling out not points of failure, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll call it points of failure.
Yeah. Well, and does a lot of your, call it proactive work, does a lot of that, are there instances in which you are maybe even helping a client of yours abide by insurance regulations and things of that nature? Or, because I specifically, I'm kind of two parts to this question, but specifically, in markets where hurricanes have become very prevalent or wildfires have become very prevalent, I know in talking to my peers in those markets, it's nearly impossible to get insurance, or you have to you have to cover yourself via 2, 3, 4, 5 providers. Are there ways where you can help folks in those instances?
Yeah, absolutely. The first piece to that, well, actually, I'll let you talk because we just had a project that happened on the coastline in Florida.
Okay.
And that sparked my memory, but I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Well, just in general, to answer one of your first questions, I think it was, does maybe the insurance company or does their broker, do they look for their insured to have some sort of disaster recovery plan? And we have one just even here in Kansas City, where on an annual basis, and they're in the food industry business, our updated agreement with them goes into their disaster recovery plan, and their broker wants to see that.
Right.
They want to see that
Every year.
Right. Every single
every
year.
year.
Every single year. And
Right.
the good news for them, they've never had to tap into it.
Right.
But we did the pre-walk. We have the agreement in place, and it's in a binder along with all their other things that they have to have. But their broker expects that, and they take that to market in hopes of maybe getting lower rates as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the other piece to that, so take like a senior living community. Since we're there doing these inspections prior to, we may be able to help identify, maybe some out of compliance, right? Some code issues, right? Because the state is going to go in to facilities like that and make sure that they're always in compliance, and so we're able to help them out with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, that's the advantage of us being able to do the reconstruction work too, because we do have clients that are like that, and if it is regulated and there is a state walkthrough and they get written up for various things and have maybe a 30 or 45-day window to get those things done, we can go do that, whether it's flooring, whether it's paint, lighting, could be outside work, could be concrete, asphalt, curbing.
Benefit of being a Class A general contractor.
Right.
Is that's essentially what you're classified as, right? Is that right?
That is
okay.
correct.
Yeah.
And is Kansas City the only maybe you said Wichita, where you've got a brick and mortar space?
We actually have 4 locations to
Okay.
date. So our corporate office and where the company was founded was in Wichita, Kansas. So that's our main corporate office.
Okay.
And then we have obviously the office here in Kansas City area, what we call our Kansas City headquarters. And we have brick and mortar in Orlando, Florida, and then we have brick and mortar in San Antonio.
Okay.
Outside of that, though, we do have our national project manager teams. And so some of those individuals are on the road 300 plus days a year. Because in any major metro, we have the ability, and most of our agreements with our clients are that we respond 0 to 2 hours in major metros. And so those crews, those teams, they could be on on the road 300 days out of the year.
Well, and those guys are insanely valuable to you guys because they're the boots on the ground in those markets that have sub connections and their own network. And because I'm likening it to just a national builder that has on-site superintendents across the country under their payroll, but they're the only guy in that market.
You got
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm following you now.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's it.
Cool.
Well, and you touched on Wichita being your headquarters and where your company was founded. I think it's pretty cool. You guys are doing projects around the country. I'm sure a lot of folks you're working with in Orlando are a little surprised to hear when you're, some of them, I know a lot of them, from my experience, maybe haven't even heard of Wichita. You know what I mean? And so,
honestly, you'd be surprised about that. So
Really?
especially after a hurricane event, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, all of the people, right, your citizens, and even the folks that are managing commercial properties, even though we're from out of town, or some of our crews and equipment and things are from out of town, they are very, very thankful that we're there because at that time, when a hurricane impacts such a wide area, there's not enough resources in that particular market to be able to get everybody back up into operation as quickly as possible.
You have to be pulling.
And the resources there have been impacted. They don't know how.
Absolutely. So you honestly, you'd be really surprised. I mean, the folks, especially down in Florida, if a hurricane ever hits Florida, I mean, they're just very, very great to all of our teams, all of our crews. I mean, and I'm talking everybody from where we're staying at in the hotels, where our crews are staying at, to, the people that are working at the fast food, restaurants helping out our teams and all that. I mean, just everybody across the board. So it turns into a nice deal.
And so touching on the family, we're brothers. We're a family team. We work with our dad, Dan Jensen, here as well. And Kessinger Hunter is independently owned and operated, so we have that similar kind of dynamic going. But if you want to touch on how you think that's enabled you to be a better advocate for your clients and be more flexible on behalf of them, and versus maybe some of your competitors who are more of a conglomerate. If you want to touch on that a little bit with how it's helped NCRI.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll go into my spiel that I usually give, and then I'll let Reuben tell you about.
You want me to clean it up?
Yeah. We're gonna have to edit this part out now. So yeah, I mean, with being a family-owned company and having all the resources that one of our competitors who is a national brand, either the red guys, the green guys, or the yellow guys, right, that are either a franchise or investment bank owned or VC owned, or traded on the stock market. We are able to provide all of the same resources, if not better than what they're being, without all the red tape, without all the franchise fees. And all of our clients at the end of the day know that it's Reuben, that it's Justin, that it's that it's Eric, that it's Steve, that it's those specific individuals that they can make the phone call to, right? It's not the 800 number.
Faces to names.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's not a call center. In fact, we've never had a call center, so everybody else in our industry has a call center, right? If somebody calls after 5 p.m., you're going to get a call center, and they're going to say, well, let me make sure I get this message over to somebody.
Right.
For 53 years, we've always had a manager of NCRI actually answer the phones 365 days a year.
Wow.
So to date, when we have 100 employees, it's usually one of our executives that actually answers the phone all 365 days out of the year. So anytime that you call, if you call at 3 a.m., you're going to get a decision maker at NCRI that can immediately put resources on the ground for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty unique, especially, things like the holiday season right around the corner. I mean, it's less, I think there's, I don't want to say dramatic's not a good word, but maybe smaller scale problems we've run into. But, we had a property manager who had to be out at a building on Christmas Eve last year, and so there's things that come up when, you need people who are going to be boots on the ground, and someone sitting in a call center, across the globe, just the dynamics of getting something to actually happen.
It's awfully helpless, knowing you need that response immediately and you don't feel confident you can get it.
Right. I call them unscheduled events, right? So these unscheduled events, they don't happen from 8 to 5.
Right.
They don't happen Monday through Friday,
Exactly.
8 to 5.
Right.
They happen on the weekends. They happen on Christmas Eve, and it's usually at 1 in the morning, right? And that's when you need, really a partner and being able to come and help you out.
Right. Yeah. Probably most of the time is when you do have those unoccupied spaces at those times.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Now, is there kind of still sticking to your history? Is there because I'm sure getting going, I think you said your grandparents founded the company.
Yeah.
I'm sure it started fairly organic for them in Wichita. I think you and I talked over coffee one time, and I think you told me a little bit about it, but I think the listeners would find it interesting if you could touch on kind of how they A, got started in the general business, and B, how it started to grow into what it is today, where you were reaching, I'm sure you naturally progressed to Kansas City, and then all of a sudden you were in another market, and then, well, hey, we can go help down here, and kind of, can you touch on a little bit of how that growth took place?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's a true rags to riches story. I mean, it's the original American dream as far as where they started at and where we're at today. So, I mean, they started in the spare bedroom of their home, and it was called, Nick's Carpet Cleaning is what it was. So they were a janitorial company, and they cleaned carpets, and they cleaned commercial spaces, and it was just that. And that was while he was working third shift at Boeing, and he was also a K-9 police officer at the same time.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, he started recognizing that he was making more money cleaning carpet on the weekends than he was doing all those other things.
Yeah.
And so they ended up taking it full time. And so Nick's Carpet Cleaning, as soon as they incorporated, they turned it into what was called Nick's Carpet Right. So the initials NCR. And so they started providing more services. We, as a company, myself, Reuben, we all kind of organically got this mantra from my grandfather, and that's never say no. So that's how they started the company. That's kind of what we know today, and that's anytime a client calls and says, I need help, don't say no, and we'll make sure between all of us on our team, we have
Mm-hmm.
either experienced it at some point in time, or we know somebody.
That's not why you're here, right?
I'm not going to answer that. So with that, I mean, he would have clients that would call and say, "Hey, I need help doing this," and then all of a sudden the services that Nick's Carpet Right were providing all of a sudden started to grow until there was an event at a large hotel that was in Wichita, and the adjusters were on site, and the hotel chain they called Nick's Carpet Right and said, "Hey, you need to come help us out." And it was 17 floors, obviously a very very large water loss, and so the adjuster, the insurance company, said, "Hey, who do you have helping you out with this? Who's your partner?" They said, "Well, Nick's Carpet Right is." I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "No, you're not going to have a carpet cleaning company come out here and try to handle 17 floors of this hotel."
Right.
So you got to find a big national company because that's the only people that can handle that. And so I believe it was my grandfather that said, "Okay, hang on, just give us a little bit, and we'll help you out. We'll figure something out." And so I think within about 24, 48 hours, the team sat down in the conference room. They said, "We got to do something. I think we got to change our name." And so they took the initials of Nick's Carpet Right, NCR, and they literally came up with, because they said, "Oh, we need a big national company." They said, "So when we handle catastrophes," they said, "it's going to be National Catastrophe Restoration Incorporated." They changed the name of the company to go handle that one client. So when we say that we can help, and when we say that we will figure it out, we will go the lengths to figure it out at NCRI.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
And then from there, did your grandpa start to kind of look for that type of work more, or how did that kind of? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I mean, they were helping out on some national work through an affiliate partner of ours that's called Disaster Cleanup International, and so he was helping out some of our affiliate partners with that. But our national accounts really didn't start growing until we added folks like Reuben, honestly. Yeah. And that's I'm not to say that my grandfather and the other individuals at our company weren't already going through that process,
right?
But where we're at today on a national level is because of our accounts folks, just like Reuben.
Yeah.
So
I think we started doing our first hurricane maybe was around '98.
Okay.
And Nick had been going to some national conferences and shows and started building some relationships, just like every business, right? It's all about relationships. He started building relationships, started doing some national work, And they brought on, I think, a couple, pretty good sized national accounts prior to me joining in 2006. But that was kind of like when we really just kind of all went all in
Right.
on pursuing that. We're not forgetting what we were doing on a local basis, but to really pursue building the company on a national level where we were doing more day-to-day work, whether it's in Miami, Florida, Seattle, Washington, everywhere in between, versus just more of like a CAT event type scenario.
I would imagine some of that market reach probably comes in a variety of different ways, but maybe it's the disaster happens first and there's somebody that can't handle it and you guys step in and see it as an opportunity, or maybe there's a market that you guys think there's potential or trying to get into, and so you'll try and hire somebody that's knowledgeable and connected down there and can grow it that way before something happens. I mean, is that true? There's kind of two sides to it.
And I think a lot of companies on a national level start that way. We call it chase and work. They storm chasers, right? They see a hurricane and then they go there and then they have boots on the ground just trying to do sales, right? And just trying to hand out cards and see if they can get some work while they're doing that. And that sometimes still happens to us organically. We've done a couple, and we're still on a large project down in Georgia, because one of our project managers was at a gas station, and the facility manager of a university happened to go there and say, "Hey, do you guys do tree removal?" Yes. So yes, we do. So a couple thousand trees later.
Thousand trees
Right.
later.
Never say no, right?
And many of their buildings had issues too.
Right.
And so for 2 hurricanes that have gone through that area, we've now done work with this. And that was just, by God's grace that we just happened to be at the exact same place at the right time.
At the gas station.
At a gas station.
And I'm sure you got to be.
But hey, you were there for a reason, you know.
Right.
You were there doing a job, and
I'm sure you got to
doing
be
other work.
somewhat sensitive with it, because you don't want to come off as too opportunistic. But because you guys are stepping into some sensitive, high emotion situations where
Oh, absolutely.
people are at their lowest, or think it's over or something, and
sure.
you guys are coming. So you got to be a little careful, I'm sure, at times.
And you got to think about it in those areas where a hurricane does hit or a tornado hits. We may have clients there, but those clients are also potentially impacted.
Right.
Their house got impacted. They may not have power at their own house.
Certainly,
and they're trying to take care of their building.
right.
And network with us and keep everybody up to speed. Then they got to go home to a dark house and trying to figure out how they're going to get their roof fixed or how they're going to get power back to their house. So.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you guys do residential in Kansas. Is that just a jurisdictional thing, or what's that? Why just Kansas there?
Yeah, I think it's more of a jurisdictional, piece to that. So, I mean, we have on staff trim carpenters and painters and all that, and so that's mostly at our brick and mortar locations.
Okay.
And so we have partnerships with some insurance carriers on the residential side, locally in the market. It also allows us to be able to, have the staff available whenever a large commercial claim comes in or a large commercial client has something happen, and we don't have to, go and hire day labor, right?
Right.
Because it's the last thing any of our partners want is to say, we have one project manager on site and there's, 20, day laborers, folks. And not that that's a bad thing at all. We still partner with, labor companies and everything. But
Certainly.
as far as, when you run into or have a specific type of facility that has very crucial impacted operations, that facility manager, that business owner, they want to get back in business as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So having full-time certified, background checked, right, individuals, full-time staff, being the ones that are actually doing the work, it really bodes well, not only for our company, but also for the client.
And now that we do have full-time employees in Orlando and San Antonio, we're open to doing that type of work there in those markets.
Right. You're maybe just a little bit more
It's
established here, and more folks. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, and this is kind of a double-edged question, not trying to get you guys stuck between a rock and a hard place, but
Go ahead.
I'm curious, because it sounds like, and this was kind of my guess, but you have end user clients that you're an advocate for, but then also, I mean, naturally you have to have a good working relationship with the insurance companies as well, and not to make light of what happened in the last week or two, but folks, especially in the current environment, aren't too fond of insurance companies and a lot of times feel like they're taking advantage of them. What's it like just kind of being in that middle place of trying to be an advocate, but also trying to, see it both ways and see it through both lenses? Because I'm sure you've had instances where you have a long-term client that has a situation where insurance maybe isn't stepping up to the plate like they want them to, and how do you kind of help bring value and resolve those situations?
We're always the fulcrum, right? And so we're always the one doing the balancing act between the insurance carrier, the adjuster, and our client. So we have to maintain relationships on both sides.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're client advocate for them, for what's taking place, why, all the why behind what's taking place, right? All the work that's taking place. And so we're the why behind all that's taking place. On the insurance side, we're trying to speak the same language, as what the insurance adjusters and the insurance, companies, their verbiage of what's actually taking place, boots on the ground. So we're trying to make sure that they interpret everything correctly of what we're what's actually taking place. But at the end of the day, it's up to them. We can't interpret anybody's policy. Right. And so it's really up to them on what they're going to, pay for or not pay for. But it's, we feel it as, our responsibility as the client advocate to be able to document everything as well as we can. So that way we're giving a good, playbook, right, if you will,
and
back to the insurance
putting
adjuster.
them putting the client in a good position,
best position as we can for them.
Right.
But then it gets out of our hands at some point.
I feel like over the last 5 to 10 years that brokers have been more involved on the claims than they used to be.
Okay.
For that specific reason, because they have more direct access to the carriers.
Right.
Which, the adjusters most of the time are usually independent and not affiliated with the carrier on some of the large losses. So they've kind of stepped up and they can kind of sit in the middle, of the table too with us and the client, and then also the insurance adjuster.
Yeah, act as that liaison kind of between the two.
And pull them down to, hey, here's what's like, look at it from a human standpoint and not necessarily always just what it says or what the red tape is.
Right. The other piece, every insurance carrier has their own policy. I was going to say rhyme or reason, but no, every insurance company has a rhyme or reason to what they, they will pay for, what they won't pay for.
Right.
And so, that becomes a part of where us having the experience, or NCRI having the experience to know, how to verbalize that correctly on behalf of the client to that specific carrier, to that specific adjusting company for, how it needs to take place. So,
right. Because I'm sure like anything, you don't want to be pushing too hard one way or the other. And, for your clients that you're an advocate for, I think they probably have confidence that, they want you to have a good relationship with the insurance adjusters. They don't want you to, they don't want to be met with someone pushing back or being difficult just because, well, hey, these guys make our life difficult every time they, and so you kind of have to find that perfect middle ground.
Yeah, because we're going to see them again.
Right.
Right. We're going to see them.
And it's candidly, it's kind of like our world when we're, because there's tenants and there's landlords and there's a fine kind of line. And a lot of times there's a broker on each side of, representing each of them. But you still, especially in Kansas City, you're doing work on both sides of that. And so there's kind of the happy place where ultimately, treating people fairly and doing what's right pays off in the long run.
Yep.
Even though you might be able to win one deal here, but when you start thinking about winning, it doesn't turn into a long-term winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it can be complicated when we are doing storm work, when we have a named storm, say a hurricane, for example, where the deductible could be 3%, 5% of the value of the property.
Right.
So we're talking about, if it's a large building, we're talking about a lot of money up front if it's a large loss.
Yeah.
So, we'll have issues where maybe we're working, our client's the tenant, so we're handling their space, but the owner of the building can't afford the deductible to take care of everything else.
Yeah.
So sometimes we run into those issues too, and it's only getting worse in those particular areas on, how much does it cost to insure your property, and then what can you afford to insure? So obviously if you do a higher deductible, you're gonna have a little bit less every month you got to pay into. But
Yeah.
I think we are seeing that a little bit too, where folks don't have maybe all of the, and I'm not going to say not all of the necessary, but they might not have the full extent of, the hoop de gras package of insurance policy,
Right.
just because the premiums are so outrageous now, right?
Yeah.
And so that is one thing that's also taking place where, policies are just limited.
Yeah. Right.
That makes sense. Well, and not to spin off of work a little bit, are you both originally from Wichita, or where were you born and raised? You said Wichita.
I grew up in Dodge City, Kansas.
Okay.
So I was born and raised there, and then moved to Wichita in the summer of '99.
Okay.
And then I played baseball at Wichita State in college.
Sweet.
Oh, there you go.
So that's kind of how I always kind of maintained that as my home base, and then I played professionally for a few years after that.
Sweet.
But always kept Wichita as my home base as I was.
Who's the? Is it Alec Boehm? Is he a Wichita
he
State
was.
guy? Right.
He was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Phillies.
Yeah. He's
Wichita State's got a great program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, they were the all-time winningest program.
Yeah.
So it was
Sweet.
That was definitely
That's
a
really
place
cool.
that I wanted to go to, especially as a pitcher, because they were so good at developing.
Did you get
the
to play
pitchers,
in that
so.
stadium?
Yeah, I got to play in high school.
We both got to play there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
And then
we
one of
weren't that good.
Yeah, one of the guys I played with, Gunnar Troutwine, was a catcher there for a handful of years.
Yeah, really good catcher.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was a stud. So.
You kind of keep up with how they're doing and stuff.
Yeah, I do watch it, and then I got a son that's an 8th grader, and so it'll be surreal this year because now most of our kids are in high school on our summer team, so we're actually playing at a Wichita State tournament, and that's going to be kind of
cool. Yeah.
odd that I'm old enough to be coaching my kid playing in a place that means a lot to me.
Reuben was my pitching coach.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Sweet.
His grandparents were really nice. So when I first got hired, I was released out of spring training in 2006. And it was like therapy because he played for, and how we got connected was the summer team that I played for, in which I moved to play for, he played for.
Cool.
So it was all kind of meant to be like how this happened. So when I got brought on, they were like, well, you can go coach during the summer. I'm like, that's awesome.
And you were still looking for your fix too.
I got no clients.
Right.
I got plenty of time, right? I'm just going to shows. I'm just trying to get my feet wet. I tried to learn the industry a little bit. I didn't know anything about it when I took the job. I just needed a job, and ended up being it just felt always right. So being with Justin for a couple summers, that was really good for me to go with these boys and help them through the recruiting process because they were really good teams. And we traveled all around the United States playing in big club tournaments, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was
And so
fun.
you guys do go way back.
We
then,
go way
don't
back.
you?
We go way back.
I haven't chewed you out since 2000.
It's been a minute. No, I think I got chewed out today from you.
Well, out of curiosity, what was the name of the club? I'm just curious.
We were called the Midwest Wolverines.
Yeah.
All
right.
Okay. I feel like we probably played them back in the day.
Do you
Yeah,
remember the
we-
NBC tournament that was in Wichita?
I don't know if I ever did.
Okay.
I played in Wichita a couple times, but admittedly, ours was never super serious. I mean, we were competitive high school baseball players that's what we did all summer, every summer was go travel around regionally and play in some, showcase
We did
type tournaments.
USSSA. That
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
Who'd you guys play for?
I did a little short stint with Barnstormers, but
Yep.
for the most
Yeah.
part, we were just doing like the local
And they were kind of,
guys in
like
our high school.
club teams that we kind of built, put together ourselves
Yeah.
with some local players.
Carl,
and-
so
Carl.
Carl
Carl
Carswell.
Carswell.
Oh, that's
He
right.
was our hitting coach.
Oh, yeah,
growing up.
yeah.
Carl
Greg.
Carswell.
That's right. You said he knew.
Oh
he
yeah,
knew
I think I
that.
did. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
funny. Yeah.
Small world.
No
But
doubt.
Which I kind of blame him if Carl for somehow is listening to this. I still to this day blame him for my golf swing. So one of his main philosophies with baseball, every time he wanted us to swing 110% every time we swung a baseball bat. And so it's hard to break that trend after you've done that thousands of times. So now when I'm playing golf and it's like, smooth swing or like slow and smooth.
Absolutely not.
And then as soon as I get cocked back, it's
grip
swing
it,
as hard as I can.
rip it, and rip it,
Which that
baby.
it leads to a lot of snap hooks and different things on the golf course.
Anytime I play golf with somebody new, it doesn't take long. They're like, "You played baseball, didn't you?" I was like,
Little top hand.
yeah.
Got great hand speed, but don't worry about where the ball goes.
It went really far. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's funny. So you were obviously Wichita, born and raised too.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I grew up in Wichita, went to Mays High School,
Cool.
and then I played baseball at Emporia State University.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I've told you this, but Mays stole a state championship away from me and my buddies my junior year.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
You guys, they were good. That was the year. I think you guys might have even been undefeated or something.
But so when I was going to Mays, though, there was only one Mays. Now there's like 7.
Just like everywhere.
There's two high schools.
Yeah,
It's where I got like one at each one.
Yeah,
I got
that's
a
right.
Mays South and a Mays.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's got to be kind of new, right? Because I think when I was in high school, even it was just one.
I think it was maybe a couple years after you graduated, or a few years after you graduated, when Mays South was
Opened
built.
up, Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's always going to be, now that we have boundaries, which is like why we have one kid at one place, one at the other.
Right.
May South is always going to be smaller. That's kind of how it was built. It was supposed to be a 4A, 5A school, while Mays has the opportunity to keep growing and be a big 6A school.
That makes sense, because that's why, in my eyes, I was just a kid out of Cheyenne Mission, and I just knew of the Mays because they were 6A. So that's I didn't realize that. Okay.
Right, and
checks it.
Mays just went back to 6A about a year ago, because we were playing. My daughter is a senior there, and we've been playing 5A for I think the first 2 years. Now, last 2 years we've been 6A.
Okay. Cool.
Now, are you in Kansas City with family here?
Yep. So we've lived here now for 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 years. So yeah, and my wife was a teacher in Olathe for 10 years.
Okay.
So she taught, but now she owns her own business. She sells women's clothing online. So she has an online boutique. It's called Metallic Market, metallicmarket.com.
There's your plug.
So yeah, and then we got 2 kids, 4 and 2.
Awesome.
So yeah, I can, I say I'm originally from Wichita, but we've lived here so long now. We're from, so we live out in
And
Wichita.
I'm sure you guys made plenty of trips through town when you were growing up too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But how often are you making the trip back and forth?
Oh, maybe once a month.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you, I think we got 4 summer tournaments up here, so I'm going to spend all of July up here. And
We're going to have roommates.
Yeah.
We're going to have roommates.
Yeah, you got space.
Yeah. I got to get a master bath done. I had a water loss at my house.
All right.
Yeah, inconveniently.
At least you know a few guys.
Yeah, I'm getting
right?
bids. Yeah.
we're at Creekside every weekend in July.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh man, that grind! I remember it.
Oh, yeah.
We laugh about it with our old man all the time. Yeah, it was a ton of fun, but we always kind of like to blame him for not turning into Mike Trout. But
you always say if he just would have pushed us a little bit harder. It's like I don't think he could have pushed us.
He was the one that was always badgering us to go play catch in the backyard.
It's like,
But
Well, hey,
no,
we've been
ton of
talking
fun.
about us. Let's hear about you guys. Tell us how you guys got started up into your dad's shop and how that happened.
Well, I guess I'll go first because I've been here, even though I'm the younger brother, I've been here a little bit longer. It's funny. I was fortunate enough when I was in school. Well, growing up, it was pretty cool. We would always, our dad coached us in football and baseball, and we'd be headed out to 3 and 2 or whatnot, and we'd be driving by, and he'd want to go check on a site he was developing, or I put that company in there. I got like a Gear for Sports sweatshirt.
There was a couple winters that we played long catch in a shell of the shell warehouse.
Oh, sure, yeah.
100,000 square feet plus, and just go all the way, and then you'd overthrow him, and he'd have to run all the way down to the other end of the building.
So we grew up around it, obviously, and I think when I was getting ready to finish up school, I kind of came about from convenience, candidly. I needed an internship to check a box for the business school, and I was over in England, and it was impossible to get a hold of someone and get an internship in Kansas City, where I was going to be for the summer. And so I was like, well, shoot, I've always been interested. I want to see what you're doing here, and they say it will qualify, so why don't I spend the summer following, you or someone at the firm around. And so I actually spent the summer before my senior year following around one of the guys in the firm, and saw kind of behind the curtains of what the day-to-day looks like, and was like, this is absolutely something I want to do. And so when I was before I graduated, I was like, I kind of want to explore another city, but I think ultimately I want to end up here and do this. And when I talked to Dan about it, he was like, well, you can go spend 2 years there and then wish you had 2 years under your legs here, but whatever you want to do. And so I just jumped into it fresh out of school, which it has pros and cons. I think it's all I knew, and I had a lot of fun with it. But a lot of the early going was trickier because, a lot of folks rightfully so, like working with someone who's experienced and knowledgeable. And it's hard to think that I had any of that when I looked like I was out of high school practically.
Sure.
So it was good for me though. It's something that I've had a lot of fun learning, and I think I've grown a lot individually through it. I was maybe not the most outgoing before, which I say that, but I think I just have a very outgoing family, so I think I'm more introverted. But that's kind of how I came into it. But then Stuart, we've been kind of pinging to join for a while.
I'm only about 2.5 years in.
Okay.
So I was 2 classes ahead of Kurt in school, about a little over 2 years my age. But I out of college, I always kind of thought that this would be fun, and I had a lot of similar characteristics to my dad, but I had basically up to 22 years old, lived almost to a T the exact same life as he had. And so I was just almost out of sheer, not spite, but just something different. I got into an outside sales role, still in a family business with my uncle's company out in Lenexa. We were privately owned manufacturers rep. So I was selling computer room HVAC, big precision cooling units that go into a data center on a raised floor. I'm sure you guys have done
Absolutely.
some recovery in some data centers where talk about timely. Water in data centers, not good.
Or if they're out while you're getting a new one, we're bringing in temporary air conditioning.
Certainly.
To keep everything cool.
Yeah. So that was my space, and I enjoyed it. It reached a point where I felt like I was kind of plateauing, and still enjoyed the outside sales aspect of it, but was ready for a change. And we were on a family vacation, and I was just like, so what if I come work for you? And they both, after that, they never let me hear the end of it. Yeah. I came back from that vacation ready to leave my current job. But no, so it's been fun, humbling at times, learning from younger brother. And Kurt and I feel like have a pretty good yin and yang. We have enough differences, even though we walk into the same room and talk, and people are like, "Oh my God, you both sound identical." But no, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been nice. To Kurt's point, when he was a fresh-faced kid out of college, I was selling a captive product before as an outside salesman, where my phone was ringing all the time. My emails were coming in for replacements, all that kind of stuff. And then I got to this, and it was like, your product is kind of you're selling yourself. And then all of a sudden, I was only getting emails from Kurt and Dan, and I'm just like, okay, how do I strum up some business? But I had also come from 8 years of outside sales experience and had, some folks that liked working with me. And so, had some early wins in that regard, which was nice. And then just learning the business and, with time on my hands, going into industrial neighborhoods and seeing what's going on and knocking on doors. And it was an appropriate fit for me, it felt like. So. Yeah, we're 2.5 years into it, and then when he suggested doing something like this, I was like, "Oh, geez, Kurt." And then here
it
we are.
wasn't like I really wanted to.
Here we are, 18 months later.
And then you guys went to college together too?
We did.
Where'd you guys go to school?
We were at Mizzou.
At Mizzou.
Yeah. Okay. MIZ, big win over those Hawks.
Oh.
Yeah. Chicken Hawks.
Saw the end of that.
Yeah.
I turned it off.
Are you a KU fan?
My wife's a huge KU fan.
Oh, okay.
Huge KU fan.
Okay.
I grew up going to all Roy Williams basketball camps.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're from Kansas, you're kind of a KU
that's
fan.
fair.
Actually, you know what? The state is split down the middle. You're either a diehard K-State or you're a diehard KU fan, and I kind of find myself somewhere in between. I root for the Jayhawks during basketball season, and I guess I'll go to a tailgate up in Manhattan.
Right. Oh, so you're the worst kind of KU fan.
That's a good thing of the schools we both went to. Like, nobody gets really mad at us.
That's what I was going to say.
If they
I went
say
to
no,
Florida
I like
State.
Wichita
That's
State.
like,
I was at the Chiefs Chargers game just this past week, and there was a family of Chargers fans in front of us, and I asked, and I was like, where, and one of them, sure enough, or the dad.
We asked if they were local.
If they were local or from LA, and the dad, sure enough, is a teacher at Wichita State because his son had a Shockers jacket on, and so I was like, "Go Shockers!"
Right.
But so I like and it's always fun when they've got a solid basketball program. I know it's going through some change, but I think they've been an easy school to root for.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we'll give you guys with your ties to Wichita, you'll get a pass on being a KU b-ball fan and a K-State football.
Yes, I always got. I went to Emporia State Division II, right? So I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
I can root
that's
for
fair.
everybody.
Oh, yeah. I joke with my KU friends. We grew up in Kansas, so I was kind of always like the one kid in the public schools. I was always the one kid in my class, and like literally my classroom would be, 20 kids, and it'd be like 12 Jayhawks, 7 K-State kids, and then me.
Yeah.
And so I grew up kind of like feeling like I had to fight for myself.
No doubt.
But now I joke with my friends, like I kind of miss hating KU because of the new conference. Or like, once we went to the SEC, it's just kind of, and I've grown up. I think probably that part that comes into play as well. But now I'm dating a KU girl, so I really got to keep it in line.
Yeah, it's in our blood from the get-go. I mean, we were raised to cheer for 2 teams, Mizzou and who's ever playing Kansas.
Yeah.
So
Literally, that's our dad told us that probably about 1,000 times growing up.
Yeah.
But following back up on your questions, we went to high school. We were 2 years apart, so we overlapped in high school, got to play baseball and football together, and then overlapped in college and got to be in a fraternity together, which was pretty special. And it's kind of crazy, actually. We've gotten so used to it the last couple of years now working together, but it is. We've always been very close. We've always been unique in our own ways, but and I'm just thinking about it more than I have just right now. But it's crazy to think that we're working together like we are, and it's pretty special and awesome opportunity we have. So it's a lot of fun. And
I think I saw a tear in the eye.
No.
Might have been a frog in the throat or something.
But it's pretty great. So we've had a lot of fun with it, and it's cool that early on it was exciting, but it's like we got to be successful for that to get more exciting. But I think things have been going well, and Stuart brings a really good dynamic to the table that I think has more of the Dan kind of more, he can walk in the door and get someone's ear easier than I think I can. I'm a little more analytical, sometimes too much so to where I might struggle to get that. So we yin and yang, like he was saying, really well, and it's fun.
What's been the most fun deal that you guys have been on?
I don't know about fun. I mean, I think it really, and it's probably similar to your guys' world.
Well, we just got recently.
It's fun when you have folks that are fun to work with.
Yes, the client. Your relationship with your client kind of drives that more than like the solution you come up with them for. But like for instance, we just got to represent a client this fall that we're helping consolidate 3 smaller locations into one like 80,000 square foot building. And it's their long-term plan. And now when you go into their building and their current building, and you're, coming across other employees and folks, you can tell they're excited about getting into a new space. And it's just, it's that kind of stuff that's cool to help people grow and help businesses move in the right direction. And, you're a part of that equation, and, there's a positive taste in their mouth. And, we always try to be front of mind, and, folks sometimes feel like they're wasting our time or something like that, or don't want to put us through the ringer. And certainly there are times when it's like, okay, is this worth it? But then there's also it's like, hey, we frequently remind clients, it's like, this is intended to be a long-term relationship. It's okay if we don't find a solution for you in the first 12 months. Like this can be a 3 to 5 year deal. I mean, Dan, one of his biggest development projects that he's done was a 15-year pipe dream that he and his good client talked about for years and years. Yeah. And it happened finally. So, it's that kind of stuff where we're brought in.
Can you name that deal?
Yeah, it's the
Cargo Largo.
out there. Yeah, on
So
Nolan
yeah,
Road.
because that deal had kind of got, he had been working with Deepak, the owner there, forever on his warehouse needs, and he helped Dee buy the ground, and they started getting going on planning a new headquarters that would house all of his needs and all of his operations, and then the housing crisis came about and the project froze, and sure enough, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, he still owned the land, and
then they were talking about it again, and then COVID hit.
But
there's always something.
But fortunately for his business, COVID wasn't actually, I don't want to say a good thing, but e-commerce, their growth directly ties to e-commerce and truck traffic, and so
they just things took
they
off.
went through the roof.
Yeah, so their needs grew even exponentially from there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, to Stuart's point, we really, we try, like you guys being an advocate for your group and doing the upfront work, even though it's maybe not what is the meat and potatoes for you.
Right.
That's really kind of where I think we bring our most value, candidly, and what puts us in a position to be most valuable for our clients is when we are helping out every inch of the way. Because then we know the story, we know where they're coming from, we know what what they need, and
then a lot of times, a client, they'll make 1, 2, maybe a handful of commercial transactions in their life.
Sure.
Throughout the course of their career. And so, we're doing it on a daily basis. Here's the things to be thinking about, because you don't want to make a reactionary decision when you're getting into something as major as that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you want to get a good deal. You want to be, getting market information, all that stuff. So
Right.
it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have an industry that you focus in? Or is there...
So we are focused on industrial, so
Got it.
warehouse manufacturing type product. As far as like industry operators types, we don't really.
Okay.
We really Kessinger Hunter, we're independently owned and operated here out of Kansas City, and we do work around the country through our SIOR network,
Okay.
Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. But we were at one point the Cushman Wakefield Alliance firm in Kansas City, and so that we for reasons I don't need to dive into, we wanted to stay independent. But what I think we've seen, I've been going at it almost 9 years now, and what I would say I've seen is I stepped in right when that flag went away, and our industry in general, commercial real estate, especially industrial, the big conglomerates, the big Fortune 500 companies, the big corporations for the most part, who have multiple locations in 50 different cities, those folks almost, feel like they need to work with someone like that. And so what we've really kind of poured into, I guess what I'm getting at to make it quick, is the local organic growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's really, and I think that's where we think we can, provide the most value for right now. And so that's who I would say we focus on as local industrial operators.
Got it.
It's kind of a long-winded way of telling.
Yeah. Do a lot of tenant rep but like full service stuff. Like Kurt said earlier, we're on both sides of the transaction, frequently, and some of that's market driven. You will find some firms that are only going to do tenant rep stuff.
Sure.
Well, they say that, and then you still see them on a listing. It's
right.
And you're still handling everything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but no. But I do think, we've had a lot of fun talking with you guys. I don't want to. I was checking the time. It's been flying by. So, but before we wrap it up, I do want to ask, kind of, NCRI. I always like asking guests, NCRI. What are some of your, what have been some of the challenges the last couple of years you've seen, and with the pandemic and whatnot, and but more importantly, what some of your goals and what you see for your future here in the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road, and what some folks maybe want to be looking for, or how to get a hold of you and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So our company during the pandemic, and it's actually probably good that both Reuben and I are in the room. We had a whole section of our company shut down.
Okay.
But Reuben and I were on an airplane to a trade show going to Florida, and we landed in Orlando, and we got a message, and it's probably one of our largest trade shows that we do. I mean, there's 10,000 plus people that go to this, 15,000 people that go to this trade show.
Right.
And all of a sudden, as soon as we land, we look at our phone, they said cancel.
Canceled.
Done. Canceled the whole thing. And Reuben says, we're getting back on the plane. You know, I'm not staying here. And I'm like, man, I just got here. Like, we got to at least go to the hotel. I'm not sitting back on this plane. It's like, fine, whatever. We're staying one night. That's it. We're going home first thing in the morning. I'm like, all right, that's fine. So we get to the hotel. I don't even think we check in. We go straight to the lobby. We didn't even check in. We just sat down. And it's like, we just got to, like, look into this whole deal. Like, what is happening? And all of a sudden, we start getting emails from clients like, hey, here's what's happening. Can you help us with this? We need to disinfect, we need this. Do you have protocols? You have this? And so in the lobby of a hotel over a couple beverages, Reuben and I put together our entire protocol and playbook of how we were going to handle all of the disinfecting treatments for all our clients. And we started emailing out to everybody. And within a week, we were operating in 40 states at once.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was everything that we could do to get every person available that we had and every chemical available that we had. I mean, it just
that was the tricky part, was supply chain, right?
Yeah.
And getting the product that we needed. But, we were sitting there, I'm like, we do this already. We do disinfect. After we do a mold job, we clean and wipe down everything already.
Right.
We just need to look at the CDC and see what products that they're approving and kind of the method that they're recommending.
Yeah.
So we bought tons of electric stack sprayers. And
I was going to say, if you can get your hands on volume at that time, you might as well pull the trigger.
And we
that was
did.
it.
We did. We got
Yeah,
everybody
that's
bought
good.
into it. And
That's cool.
And Justin's right. Our construction division shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wanted us in their home or their business.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's
Right.
where the cleaning started. Everybody became a tech then.
Everybody became a technician. And when I say we were operating, I'm telling, like, we have a financial partner where just in Nevada, I think it was in Nevada. Yeah, just in Nevada, we had 35 locations just in Nevada that we were doing 2-3 times a day, and we did that for 4 months.
Touch points.
Wow.
Just in Nevada, we were doing that all across the country. I mean, it was.
That's crazy.
It was wild.
Well, that's a cool way to see you guys evolve too as a company, and take take advantage of the opportunity.
Never say no.
Well, I mean,
That's right.
And folks needed
Others
that.
were doing it.
Well, folks
and-
needed that
and they
service.
needed it.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was believed if you touched something, that's how you were going to
Right,
get COVID.
right.
And so that's where the cleaning came into it.
Yeah.
Never say
Is
no.
there a vertical that you guys think over the next few years here that you can add some growth to NCRI?
Well, so in industry in general, I mean, we are growing. I mean, I would say that we're growing pretty organically, and then also another way that we're growing just in our industry. So through the pandemic, a number of venture capital firms found out that, hey, the restoration industry, they didn't shut down, right? And so they said we need to go start acquiring some of these companies, and so a lot of our competitors all started getting acquired.
Right.
Well, with that came a lot of cuts, a lot of red tape, right? When you get bought by somebody that only cares about financial picture on a quarterly basis, and not necessarily just the client at the end of the day, things change, culture change, all that, and so we've been starting to get clients purely because of what's been taking place just in our industry.
Right.
And so we're kind of last the Mohicans in that aspect, right? We're not a group that's ever going to sell out to some venture capital company or investment bank or anything like that. And so again, it's still Justin and Reuben and Steve and Eric and everybody answering the phones. And so we're starting to take over a lot of client market share in a number of different markets. So we're growing organically. I believe at the right pace, in the right markets. Do we want to have more brick and mortar locations? Do we want to have the newest and latest and greatest equipment and technology and everything? Of course, just like everybody else. We want to update our softwares better than they are today, right? Just like everybody else. But we've been in business for 53 years for a reason. And it's not because we took the wrong steps. It's because we've, all sat down as a team and made sure that we're taking the right steps to move forward. So, I think we're chugging along at a really good pace. But I think that we could also here in the next, 2 to 5 years really take, a pretty big leap. In the industry. So
Cool.
That's awesome.
So what's the hotline if I need you?
If you need me,
at 3 a.m.
well, I'm not going to say my cell phone number over but I'll give it to you
So
after this.
what's the NCRI
If
hotline?
someone wants to get a
NCRI
hold of NCRI, what's the best way to reach
so
out?
we do have a 1-800 number. It's 1-800-598-6274. But again, that number is always answered by a full-time manager of NCRI.
Cool.
365 days a year. So that's our 800 number. Here in Kansas City, it's 913-663-4111. Our Wichita office number is 316-636-5700. But majority of our clients usually have all of our cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
And so they call directly to our cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There you go. Well, Justin, Reuben, appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thanks
for
a
coming
lot.
on with
Yeah,
us.
thanks for
and,
having
It's great to get
go
to know
give
you
us a
guys.
follow on Air Podcast. Team Jensen. Thanks, guys.